I'm Chris Meyer, principal at St. Paul's Lutheran School in Waverly. It's time to talk about grief. This week, when the governor of Iowa made the proclamation that our schools would now be closed through the end of the school year, we were not surprised. But what did surprise us was the grief that suddenly overwhelmed teachers, students, and families. Suddenly, the reality of the situation we are in began to dawn as an intruder who has come into our lives with the intent to keep us captive longer than we thought. How do we begin to deal with all that has been taken away from us? How do we begin to grieve what was once looked forward to and in an instant has become a casualty of the COVID-19 pandemic? How do we deal? How do we grieve? There are three areas where people choose to spend most of their time. One is remembering and half living in the past. We always used to do it this way, or if only it could be that way again. There are those who live in the future. What if this doesn't happen? How will this end? What's going to happen? Then there are those who live in the present. They soak up the moment so that they don't regret it when it is gone. I guess that's where I usually am. I remember when my dad died. I cried and cried, standing in it with his body, rubbing his arms, kissing his face, in an attempt to deeply inscribe in my memory the feeling of his warm skin and the sight of his face, so I could take that lasting memory with me the rest of my life. I wanted to have enough of that last moment, and I did. Living intentionally in the present, making meaning of each day and moment can help us escape regret. Perhaps regret is one of the deepest parts of grief. I have two guiding principles in my life. One is that each day I look forward to something. It can be a cup of coffee, it can be something I find meaning in. The other is that I don't want to be 108 years old and wish I would have. In dealing with grief, especially of so many lost experiences due to the forced shutdown of schools, lost jobs and financial security, social gatherings, and so many milestone events, we must allow ourselves to be sad, wistful, angry, or frightened in these first moments. These are normal feelings, and feelings of which we should not burden ourselves with a load of guilt. They are part of the process of walking through, not around grief or loss, but walking through, feeling it all. We must do that so that we emerge healthy. There's a great scene in the award-winning movie Steel Magnolias. Sally Field's character just lost her daughter to death. She cries, "I am so mad, I don't know what to do. I don't know why. I want to know why. I want to understand. It's not supposed to end this way." The grief of today hits us so hard too, because the events surrounding it are out of our control. We feel so helpless, sometimes useless, so often powerless to make a change back to what was right and good, what was normal. When we are in the murky waters of grief, of regret for all that was not, the graduation of the sixth graders at our school or the seniors at high school, the spring musical, the proms, the end of the year celebrations, we too find ourselves asking why. We don't understand. But God has given us a thing called will. It is this will that allows us to do something, even if we don't understand why or exactly what we are feeling. It came to me this week that the most powerful things in the world are those things we cannot see. The virus, hate, grief, thoughts of gratitude, conversations, love. These cannot be seen, but actions from them have the power to change everything that can be seen. Isaac Newton's first law of motion states, everything continues in a state of rest or motion in a straight line, unless it is compelled to change that state by forces impressed upon it. Forces often unseen, like a virus, like grief, like gratitude, like love. Those can be forces moving a body to change. Some other things we cannot see: determination, acceptance, forgiveness, hope. Or can we? What do you reflect that others can see or feel by your very eyes, your smile, your presence, or your actions? I'm reminded of the legendary Maya Angelou. She wrote in her book, Wouldn't Take Nothing for My Journey Now, about her grandma Annie, who alone had to raise 2 toddlers. Grandma Annie was determined not to let anyone else do the raising of those children, but she had to have some source of income. So she figured out a way to sell her homemade food by a factory and a lumber mill. She said, and I quote, "I looked up the road I was going and back from where I come. And since I wasn't satisfied, I decided to step off and cut me a new path," unquote. When we do come to terms with the feelings, those feelings we have lost because of this pandemic, it becomes up to us to determine what direction we will move with this new force placed upon us, to step off the road and cut us a new path. In these times, we do not understand why. We simply do not understand. But that cannot cause us to be powerless, helpless, or stuck in the depths of grief forever. By moving, making motion, we bring possibility to a place where there was none. What innovative replacements can be done for those rituals and traditions we were used to? What new memories are in the making that would not have been had it not been for these times? Barb Zelly Anderson, one of our St. Paul's Lutheran School alums, said to her granddaughter, Ava Stafford, one of our 4th graders, she said, "Don't be disappointed. You're living history." It's true. Alfred Butts, unemployed architect in the 1930s, during the Great Depression, invented a game during his idle hours of unemployment. That game is called Scrabble. He was living history, and he did something about it. Isaac Newton, he was right, wasn't he? But know that through all this time, this grief, this adjustment to a new normal, we do not go it alone. I must take you with me once again to visit the story of Sir Ernest Shackleton, the famous explorer who attempted to sail across Antarctica in 1914. Though he did not succeed to his goal, he did not lose one of his men in the grueling journey to return home. It was said that he drew inspiration from many sources: his faith, other people, the works of great thinkers, and perspective. Shackleton was in the final journey to get help. With 2 other men, he was scaling nearly impossible climbs over uncharted mountains of ice. He tried to express in words the spiritual dimension of his feelings. And I quote, "When I look back on those days, I have no doubt that God guided us, not only across the snowy fields, but across the storm-white sea that separated Elephant Island from our landing place on South Georgia Island. I know that during that long and racking march of 36 hours over unnamed mountains and glaciers of South Georgia Island, it may seem to me often that we were 4 men, not 3. I said nothing to my companions of this point, but afterwards, Worsley, one of the other companions, said to me, 'Boss, I had a curious feeling on the march that there was another person with us.' Creon, the third companion, confessed to the same idea. Unquote. Grief is lonely. Fear is lonely. Loss is loss. But we do not climb the mountains of fear, grief, and loss alone. Isaiah 41:10 reminds us, "So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." The ultimate thing we grieve, more than the loss of graduation, prom, the fun last day of school, the ultimate is that we will grieve the loss of life due to COVID-19, the virus that haunts our daily lives. But the virus does not win. Grief does not win. Fear does not win. Anger does not win. God still wins. For God is love. And He will take us beyond death to new life. Helen Keller once said, and I quote, "Although the world is full of suffering, it is also full of overcoming it." We had a neighbor when we lived in Forest City whose name was Agnes Burhow. One day, I took her to her 60th homecoming class reunion at Waldorf College. She was wearing a light blue polyester dress with little flowers. I said, "Agnes, you wearing a new dress?" She said, "Oh, no, I bought it 20 years ago from a funeral. I haven't used it, so I thought I'd start wearing it." Wow, what a thought. Agnes was dancing in her funeral clothes. We cannot change this time, this pandemic, this grief, but we can still dance. Will you pray with me? Gracious God, please replace our grief over all that was supposed to be and replace it with courage to step off the road that was and start a new path on the journey that is. Help us to sense your presence in this struggle. Help us in our moments of asking why, to instead stop and listen for the rhythm of hope, so that we can begin to dance on our new path set before us. Give us faith to take your hand as a partner in this dance of life. Amen. I'm Chris Meyer, principal at St. Paul's Lutheran School. I look forward to seeing you next week.